Hello, it's Damian Questiny. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. The topic I thought we could discuss together is one regarding density and gravity. And perhaps if I'm feeling jovial and experimental, we can talk a little bit about time travel and how that potential could exist for those that are interested with eyes to see and ears to hear. So density and gravity are both real. Now, I know that may sound contradictory, and it's supposed to, but I'd like to explain. People put energy, thought, emotion, desire, their action, their will, all this energy is transferred into these concepts of density and gravity. So they have life, they are living, they are immortal. They become the standards in which we carry for our science. And even though the definitions may not be correct when you look them up online, because online is an entrainment trickery, a mimicker, a liar. So what you do is you are the analog to its digital. You verify and validate its information. You provide evidence. You provide proof. Why? Because this is how we grow. This is how we learn. This is how we become better. You're not here listening to me because you have nothing better to do. You're here because you are hungry and you are thirsty and you are looking for something. Well, that's why I'm here. So I'm not being hypocritical. And I'm not trying to have a cop-out. I'm being dead serious when I say density and gravity are both real. And I'd like to give a perspective. And I'd like to ask those out there who have the spirit of challenge, or the spirit of courage, or the spirit of love, or the spirit of my favorite, care and share. Please, let's discuss this. Because if you really want to create time travel, let's do it. Density is very different than gravity. Density is actually a masculine force, where gravity is a feminine power. Because if you come here to my channel, you will know that I do not subscribe to the universe being explosions and big bangs. The universe in my model is electric and magnetic. It is pressure and it is temperature. And pressure is the gravity of an object, a thing. It is its internal nature, that which provides its own chaos into the system in which we live. As opposed to the temperature is the density in which something has. It pushes as opposed to gravity, which pulls. Okay? So, density is the aggregate agreement amongst all things. Those are the laws and the rules in which the objects must follow in the physical and in the spiritual. And gravity is the difference, the differential between all things, which separates this rock from that rock, as we discussed previously. And the slower in which your frequency, vibration, and resonance moves, the more dense you become. The faster that frequency moves, the less dense you become. So a rock moves at a slower pace than, say, a flower in bloom, full of color. That would be faster. And by manipulating not the density, because the density is constant and consistent. It is the entire system in agreement, in contract, in covenant. It is the gravity in which you have to manipulate in order to possess the power of time travel. Okay, and how that works, for those who listen carefully, I call this the Rainbow Bridge or fade to black. But if you put your intention and your influence not behind density, because you won't get the results you're looking for, but if you put it through gravity, which is the internal nature of the object or target in which you are aiming for, and you have a relationship with that target, one hopefully built on trust, because if it's built on trust, it takes a lot less energy to influence the target. If the target is not in a relationship with you, you have to use brute force, and brute force has very, very negative consequences. And sometimes it's as easy as asking, and you just have it change its frequency, vibration, and resonance. And by doing that, it provides time travel to that object, including yourself if you did this on your own. Because by changing your frequency, vibration, and resonance, you are moving yourself into a new space, because the space will accommodate the time in which you are trying to change. So it's accommodating. It assists you. Okay, it alters to give that new frequency, vibration, and resonance a place to exist, because that is the nature of density, right? Density is that which the environment, where gravity is the chaos that you put into that environment. So you can travel forward or backward through the remote viewing protocols if you're structured correctly and you have the right phone number, so to speak. And I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know. You guys already do this naturally. I'm just reminding you. I'm just putting into a structure to where it assists you on your practice here. Okay? To give you guys an example is, let's say that we all created a time machine and we went back just 100 years in the past. Okay, so we went back to 1918. Because of the nature of the universe, that it's electromagnetic, all of our experiences are built within inside of our bodies. And those bodies have been introduced to a lot of complex structures and new ideas, new chemicals, like sunscreen, right? We've eaten genetically modified food, which didn't exist back then. We've been exposed to chemtrails that weren't back then. And all these elements of high density or even high frequency are within ourselves and have changed us. We've walked on radioactive sand, right? We swam in dirty oceans. And when we go back in time to 1918, those things did not exist back then. So what density does is density allows that new information to be added into the Akashic record or the universal mind, because new information is there. So it brings that in and allows that to have an effect now in the world. And if we did this too many times, more and more people would probably be sensitive to these new concepts, because every time we go back, we're adding this pulse, this rhythm into the universe. And then there's sensitive people out there, like remote viewers or like, clairvoyant, or anybody who's psychic can pick up on these imaginations that it seems initially, but they're really not imaginations. They're future concepts that have been built, and the universe has allowed these frequencies to percolate in 1918 because they will exist at some point in the future. So if you get a time, if we were like really far, like say we're from the year 2600 and we went back in time to 1918, think about how much that would affect the universe. Think about how much information would have to be interjected into the Akashic record to accommodate those needs. And that's how more and more chaos is introduced to the point where you have things like the Mandela effect, which is simply the pollution from manipulation of gravity and time. So, density is the natural push of force that is applied evenly to all things. And it's also open source to all things that is in participation with the system. Because it's the sum total of the world. It is the agreement again between all things, the here and now, the gift of the moment, the present. And gravity is the natural pull and unique character and personality of a target. So if you change that frequency, vibration, and resonance, then you can change the chaos and influence in which it interjects into the world. And through that interjection, time changes, time speeds up or slows down because it alters it. So density and gravity is similar to breath, the in and the out, right? Then time travel would be best described as the in-between state of in and out, the pause between the pulse. Subscribe or like. I'd really love to hear your views. Cheers.